Hello, hello, hello.
Hey guys.
How's everybody doing?
Hey,
Hey,
howdy, howdy.
JR. How's everybody out in the chat going? Chuck A, Roger S. What's up, everybody? The quiet night tonight. We'll see if anybody else pops in. Tonight, I want to talk to you about some decorative box or case base feet. How to make those pedestal type feet that one would see on the bottom of maybe possibly a jewelry box, or possibly the bottom of a dresser or cabinet, curio cabinet, gun case, or whatever the case may be. I want to let me share my window and see if we can kind of give you a visual of what I'm referring to. Entire screen. So when we're talking about boxes and everything, and these feet, now they don't have to be necessarily this tall, but I want to talk to you and teach you, a simple way to make these on your CNC. These type of feet, and when we're looking at those corner type feet, they have a lot of different styles. They can be thin, they can be thick, they could be under the base, they could be kind of wrap around the outer edge of the base, depending on any kind of lip that you create on the back side. And it's a really nice addition to your boxes and everything. And I'm also going to talk to you about how to make decorative curved sides of your boxes and things as well too. Now, not every bit of this can be done on a CNC. All the foot and everything can be made, but the miter cuts to create the corner, you'll have your left and right feet that you'll be creating, and then there's going to be a miter cut on the ends of those, so it comes together. So they get glued together to make that corner. And a single foot element. This is one of the more common design pedestal feet. You see it a lot in boxes, but also dressers, and those elevated type, curio cabinets and things like that. You could be basic, could be plain. It could have, some type of decorative little element to it or look to it. But that's what we're going to make tonight. And that's what I'm going to show you how to create. And the cool thing about it is we can actually make it in Aspire with the model and everything, but we can also with a little workaround, or we can also make it in Vectric VCarve, Desktop, and Pro using the molding tool and everything. So I'm going to hopefully give you something that's going to be useful. And Ronnie, I want to throw that up on the screen. Ronnie says, "Heck yeah!" So there you go. So that's exactly right. Hopefully everybody else will be interested as well. And let's kind of get into it in a minute. But first of all, let me say hi to JR and Ronnie. Hey, hold on. Let me show Ronnie. Could you do me a favor? Let me throw you up here on the main screen there. There you go.
Yeah, I make these now, but it's a real pain in the butt to do. And of
Okay.
course, these have already been mitered together, the two sides.
Sure.
But I'm really super stoked about when I saw this was going to be the topic tonight. I'm like, all right, man, because this would really open up a lot of other options. Um, and I was hoping though that you could lay up, a single piece of wood, right, whatever your
Yes.
width is going to be, and then using a 90 or 91 degree V bit, just like slice right, cut right through the middle, and then you wouldn't even have to go to the miter saw.
Yeah, so we can definitely talk about that. As far as how to create that miter. I mean, we can definitely do it as a chamfer cut on as a two-sided project. So we could definitely flip the board and cut the miter on the backside. As a chamfer between two, we can have 2 feet, and we could just run a chamfer right down the middle of it, and then. And so because what I'm going to teach you is, like you can see here on the screen, this is a 14-inch wide board, how we can make multiples of these, right? And then, so if we lay them out right, then we could absolutely run a V-bit right between them. And then when the profile cuts out, sure, there's a good possibility we could create that miter that way without having
this is super cool. Super cool. It's so cool you're doing this tonight. I'm loving it.
Without having to go to a miter saw or a table saw. Now, I have a little sled, a table saw sled that I would blade tilted, to cut these little feet and everything. But sometimes, depending on the size of the feet in the box and all, I mean, it could be a little tricky. But it's a very, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, it's a very simple thing to do, and this is why I wanted to show this to you. Is you're gonna be surprised as to how simple this is to accomplish. And then the design of the foot, the world is your oyster, right? And so let me see if I can, on these pictures, let me see if any of these pictures that I have show. Okay, so you see this back piece. Let me go bigger with that. Let me get this. Bear with me just a second. Let me get this bigger. You see this back piece right here on this image? Well, this back piece is a little tall. They've got it set up like this because this is going to be for like a cabinet base or something. But if we recess it down, then, lower this back piece and everything on here, then we have like a little shelf on the back side to allow for us to have the part kind of wrap around on the outside of the box, where the actual box base is sitting inside on that ledge, that lip and everything. Now, we don't necessarily have to attach a back piece or anything like that to it. We could attempt to cut that as a two-sided project, to create that kind of that recess and everything. It really just depends, it's sometimes it's easier just to create. But let's take a look at it, and let's go through it and see what you guys and girls think. All right, so let's see here. We got everybody in that's going to be in for right now. All right, so one of the things I want to show you I have 2 vectors here, and let me bring them both onto the board. And let me just size them down just real quick for a moment. So on the feet that you saw in the photos that I just shared on the screen and all, the most common design that you're going to see in those feet are this style here. Just a very simple design. And as a matter of fact, Ronnie was kind of showing, in his set of foot, it has a very close, similar design to this. You will see this a lot in boxes and everything, and they could be flat. They could have just a simple curve to them. They could have, a nice little wave to it, whatever the case may be. So let's talk about the wave first, and then we'll talk about the feet last. So on the, let's get the, get this back up to size here for a minute. I want to come here and stand that there. We're going to look at this as an Aspire 2-rail sweep, and then we're going to look at it as a VCarve Desktop Pro molding toolpath. Okay, how would we accomplish this, as one or the other? Now, the wonderful thing about, with it being an Aspire model, we can see the model. We can see the curvature and everything. With the, we have that visualization, right? When we are doing it in Desktop and Pro as a molding toolpath, we just see the toolpath result, the toolpath preview. It doesn't create a vector. It doesn't create a model for us to view. We just see the simulation preview, the result of the toolpath card, right? And everything. So we have to kind of hope or guess that we got it right. And it's not a hope. It comes out well, but we don't see that visualization. So I'm going to start off with the Aspire model first, so we can just see that visualization, so we can have it in our head and everything. And so I don't use this method just for the feet, but I also use this method for the boxes. So bear with me a second. Let me grab one of my boxes here, and I want you to see on the camera this curved profile, right, on this box. So it's a simple mitered box, right? But it has that curved element to it, and that's literally what we're doing right now. I just have a very simple set of feet on this, nothing decorative or anything, literally just kind of a rounded over, almost you would almost think it's like a quarter round piece, but it was simple to do. But the box, that box shape and everything, you can really do some cool stuff with that shape on that side. And we're using that similar kind of method to make the box side, but we're actually going to take the feet out of it. So let's look at this as a 2-rail sweep, and we'll kind of go from there. So the first thing I need my rails. So I'm going to draw a rail across the top of the board. I'm going to draw a rail across the bottom of the board, and that'll be the 2 rails that I'm going to use. Now the profile, just so you understand, the profile, when we create it, literally it could be any shape that you want it to be. Whatever you want these feet. Imagine these feet in a mitered, look and all, whatever that shape or design. And again, it could be something tall and narrow where it's wider at the base, then it kind of curves in. It could be a very simple curve like what we're doing here with we have a little bit of a step out. We could create, some decorative elements. We could create scrolls like you see here on the cuts. I'm going to show you how to do all of that and everything. The feet could be, now this is just a flat foot. There's no curve to it at all, right? It's mainly just we have a little step out here. We have the little scroll step out and the step out on the foot, right? Just a very simple profile. Imagine this as a cross section or a profile, and it's really, you'll see as we get into this, it's really, really straightforward. And so here we're going to have a curved, the foot's going to have a bit of a curve to it. So we're going to take a 2-rail sweep, and we're going to select our drive rails. And that's going to be our drive rails for that 2-rail sweep. Make sure your rails are going in the same direction and all that stuff. So we're going to come here, and we're going to apply this. And if we look at our 3D view, first of all, let me reverse my swap rail order. There we go. And apply that just to turn it right side up. Let's go to the right side. Hold on and bear with me. Turn, you booger, turn. 90 degrees. Okay. So just trying to show this side profile. Very simple shape. Nothing. There's nothing outstanding about this shape at all. But we, it will give our foot just that real nice little. It'll have more of this. Not that one. Hold on. Let me get to it. More of this style to it, right? Just a very simple, foot. Now this, of course, this foot doesn't have the miter on it and everything. There'd be a miter if it was a corner foot and everything. Sometimes, don't ask me why, but sometimes they'll do a butt joint where they butt one up to the other. It doesn't look good at all, but it makes no sense to me. But sometimes they do. It just depends on how the profile is. But we want a miter cut, like if we were cutting trim and stuff. So we're going to have basically that kind of style. So we create the profile, right? That's all we do. And then from here, we would take our foot. Let's close this tool. We would take our foot and we, of course, would size the foot to, whatever size it needs to be. And we're going to do left and right feet and all that. I don't think I made it big enough I might have made it big enough for 4 feet too. I don't think I made it big enough for 4 feet. So give me a second here. Let's go 16.
Alternate them?
Yes, 100%. Yep. Yep. And you want your left and right for sure. So let me stretch this out here. And let me take, move that out of the way. Move this over. And we'll go ahead. I'm going to hit the letter H on the keyboard, and that's going to kind of flip that for me. And I'm just going to use my arrow key to bump that over. Let's take this one. And as far as if we're going to try that chamfer and everything, we can kind of get them as close as we can here, but not too close. We need a bit to be able to fit in there to cut them apart. And it's okay if they're not that close because our chamfer is a chamfer. We can position it anywhere we want. Again, I'm going to hit the letter H, right? And so that would be kind of this pair. And you definitely want to alter because you need that left and right of your corner, right? So don't have them all facing the same way. You have all lefts and then no rights, kind of thing. And let me get this model centered, and let's take this pair and kind of move it over just a little bit. All right. So now, if I came in and the one thing that you'll see here, I got to size the feet up a little bit, is I need them to fit, this little lip here needs to be as tall as the white here. And I didn't really I didn't match the feet up to this profile. On the profile, I was more showing you, like a side of a decorative box kind of thing. But in this case, I'm going to just simply size these a little bit. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to create my profile properly. Let's turn that component off for just a second. And also, my board is a little bit tall. How tall is my foot here? My foot. Now, this foot is, about 2 inches tall. Ronnie, how tall, if you sat that on the floor, how tall is your foot? If you sat it like on its foot, how tall is it? Is it like an inch and a quarter?
Mine's like an inch and 5/8.
Inch and 5/8. Okay. Let's do that. Size. Scale individually. 1.625. There we go. And let me take my material. We're going to use it. We're going to go, I'm going to go 1 3/4. Give me some room. And I'm going to get rid of that for a moment. I'm going to center those. That was not center at all. There we go. All right, wonderful. And let's add some more feet in here. So bear with me. I'm get this all laid out. So we'll put those two there. Bring that a little bit closer. Move you over. Hold down the control key when you're making copies of things. I'm going to do 3 pair. So 1, 2, and move this over. 3. Good enough. Okay, now, once again, I've got to do a 2-rail sweep. So I'm going to draw my lines because I deleted them just a moment ago when I resized the board. So from the corner all the way across on this 16-inch piece by 1 3/4 inch tall. Now, again, if I do have a taller piece, I can, if I had a wider board, I could do what I'm about to do, profile twice on both sides. And then I could, cut out as many of those parts as I wanted to, right? I don't have to just make one little strip. If I'm going to make feet, I have an old country crock butter dish. When I make the parts and stuff, I'll throw them in there, as they get cut out and stuff, and I pull them out, miter them, make the feet as I need them, in sets and stuff. And I just have them on hand. And you don't necessarily have to make them out of a little strip. You can make them out of a full piece of wood. All right, let's size this appropriately. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to use a guideline because I'd like my foot here. I'd like my foot to actually have that little step out. Now, this is all waist down here, right? So I like to have a little bit of a step out. And then also on the top, right here, I'd like to have, which you don't see, but right there, I'd like to have a kind of a little bead across the top. So in the profile, I'm going to redraw this. Let's go here. Let's go to node editing. Let's take all of this and bring it down here. Don't worry, it's all ugly looking right now because I just screwed up that corner, right? But pull this out, pull this down. Now, node comes down here. This is going to be my little foot, right? And it's going to have just a slight little step out. From there, I'm going to have a nice curve. I want a nice curve. And how deep, if you go deep and everything, that creates, more of a pedestal foot. If you, go shallow and everything, it's more of a blunt foot. So kind of, whatever you want to do. I'm going to pull in about like that. Nice curve here. Now, 3/4 inch is my material thickness, right? So it's very important for me that my foot is only 3/4 inch thick. So I want to make sure that I create a parallel guide 3/4 inches away. And let me delete this one. Relative guide. Let me delete this one. One more time. Delete. All right. Let's try that again. Make a relative guide 3/4 inch. And I should have moved. Let me move this all back so it's not on the board. 1 second, ladies and gentlemen, we'll get it. All right, one more time. A relative guide, 0.75. There we go. And it's important for me that my foot and everything fit in this 3/4 inch because that's how thick my material is. And of course, it could be 1/2 inch thick material. It could be 1/4 inch. If you look at this 1 foot, most of these are probably in the 3/4 to 1/2 inch range. But if you look at this foot here, it could be much thinner, right? Depending on what you're doing. And also, if you look at this foot, I mean, to the back of it, there's not a whole lot of meat there. Now, that was pocketed away and all that stuff. But from the widest part of this curve, flat, think of this as a flat object right here. Not very thick. 3/8, 1/2 inch, that kind of, it all depends on the size. And this can get scaled up to down to jewelry box feet, or scaled up to dressers and curio cabinets and all of that stuff, right? You know, cabinets and everything. So if you Google, pedestal feet, and you look at the images and results and things, and you see all these different designs. There's all kinds of things, but the pedestal feet, I mean, they could be for dressers, right? Or all the way down to jewelry boxes. And there's all different kind of styles and things. And we're making kind of a corner style foot right now. So literally, I mean, just as thick or thin as you want your material to be. Right now, my material is 3/4 of an inch thick. That's what we're dealing with, okay? So it's important that on my profile, and this looks thicker than 3/4 here, but it's actually not. Is it? Just kidding. Let me see here. 9, 4, 9, 6. Yeah, it's 3/4. It just looks big because my part's really small, right? So let's go into node editing. I want to bring all of this out to here, okay? I want to bring my curve in. I don't want to be that dramatic with the curve. So something like this. Bring this out to that 3/4 inch line. And I want to pull this back actually out right here. And I'm going to go with kind of a really nice foot. So we'll go with this style here, very simple style. Now up here, as I said, I wanted a bead, right? So we're going to go into node editing once again. Very important to make sure your line is straight. My line is crooked right now. If I turn this off, you can see it's crooked right there. So in node editing, I want to make sure that I select this node first. That's the one I want to align to. I'm going to hold down the shift key. Select this node last, the one I want to align, and up and down is the y-axis. So when I hit the y-axis, we're going to come in here. And the we're going to have the lip here as well. So let me get the lines, and bear with me just a second. If you don't mind, Ronnie, I'm going to mute your mic just for a moment. There's just a little bit of feedback, and JR, yours as well. Just for a quick moment, you can. I think you should, Ronnie. See if you test it. See if you can unmute yourself. If I mute you, or do I have to unmute you? Can you unmute yourself? Okay, no. So let me hear that. Let me not mute you. Can you mute your microphone on your side? And you too, JR. Hold on, Ronnie. I got to turn you back on. There you go. Say that again, Ronnie.
I was just saying, I just put it on mute. I can't unmute if you mute me.
Yeah, I know. I just unmuted you. I won't mute. I just found that out myself too.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I don't have anybody in my office with me, so.
No. It's not that feedback. That was just people talking in the background over there. I'm talking about, it's a static kind of. I'm not sure. It's a static, just a static. No big deal. It's I don't think anybody it was bothering anybody one iota. It was in my ear. On here, on that bead is going to be between these two lines. So we're going to take, and it could be any shape you want, right? So I'm going to insert a point right there. And this, what I want to do with this, because I got that node kind of, oh, don't do that. Turn off the smoothing. If I turn off the smoothing, then it's not like a teeter-totter. I can move this line out however I want. And what I want, I don't want it to be funky looking. Let me go with an arc. Ooh, not an arc. Not an arc. Hold on a second. I need to pull this node out a little bit. There we go. There we go. Pull this node down. That node's on there. Pull the arc in just a hair, just where I fall under that line. Wonderful. So don't want to create too much of an undercut. Okay, that's the maximum I can do that arc. Okay, that's perfect. I'll leave myself a little bit of meat so the if I have any inconsistency out of my wood, it'll get milled away there. Matter of fact, let me do that down here too. Oh, don't move the guideline. Back this up just a hair. Now, on here, my bottom line is crooked too. I'm not good at drawing straight lines today. So once again, we'll select this bottom line, hold down the shift key. Select this node last because it's the one I want to move, and Y is up and down. We'll straighten that out. All right, after all that, we finally have a profile. Let's go ahead and sweep it between the two rails. Here, I'll select the top one first. That first, that second, that's going to be my drive rails. And then this will be applied all the way across. Cool. There's that little bead. Right, and again, play with it, have some fun. You can throw some grapes and vines in there and stuff like that. Now, if you do something like that, you got to remember you're cutting a miter right along this line here. You know, you're cutting a miter, and it's going to be very important. The two parts are going to come together as a corner. So if you do anything like a decorative grape or something, you make sure that it gets cut on that center line as well too, right? Otherwise it's going to look goofy. All right, let's do a 3D finish cut on this. Bring somehow or another, my model scaled up just past 3/4. Let me see where I missed my mark. Turn on. If that is 3/4 and my part is here, how in the world could I end up with less than 3/4 or more than 3/4? Let's close this. And how in the world do I keep getting a crooked line? Select, straighten out. All right, this part here, let me look down here. It's 0.7416 inches. Okay, 0.7416. That is under 0.75. My model what do I have open that it won't let me select my model? Interesting. Oh, get out of node editing mode, Laney. There we go. 0.79. Well, where did that extra come from? Interesting. All right. My profile, 0.7416. That's what I want, 7416. Interesting. All right, one more time. Let's go into our job setup. Now, the waist, put it in the back. Or you can put it in the front to mill off, in case you have any inconsistencies. It doesn't matter. So at this point, we'll just slide this down and we'll mill that waste off. We're going to go ahead and it's only 0.0084, 8 thousandths, 84 ten thousandths. The 3D finish cut, you can do a rough cut, of course, yes. But I was just kind of jumping ahead. 3D rough cut is going to use a 1/4 inch end mill or kind of rough away. There's not really anything to rough away there, to be honest with you. Literally just that and that. That's it. So a 3D finish could have actually you could do it all with just a 3D finish without needing the rough. I am going to use a 16th inch ball nose to do this just for the whole thing. So I'm not going to throw my 1/8 inch tapered ball nose in there, just my 16th inch tapered ball nose. We're going to calculate this. Come on, man. Calculate that. I'll get it, I promise. Now, again, if I had a wider board, let's say I had a beautiful piece of oak that was 8 inches wide, right? And I need to make these feet out of, I would literally create this model. This model right here, the height of it is only, I think Ronnie said 1 5/8, right? So imagine 1 5/8, 1 5/8, however many you could get on there. I'd literally create this sweep across, and I've got 3 sets of feet on this 16 inch board, right? So that's 3, 6, 9 sets, right? And so that gives us 2 boxes, right? One set is 1 leg, right? We have 9 sets, so 4 sets per box. That's 2 sets, and that's 1 extra in case we screw up. Whatever. So we're going to preview that visible toolpath, and we have this simple cut here. But literally, you could make little strips and cut them all out of one little strips, or you could cut them out of one board, right? Whatever you want, however you want to handle that. It's really up to you. When I'm in a box making mode, I gang these things out. I like decorative feet. They're nice sometimes. All right. Now we're gonna come in. I'm gonna show you this in a. Molding toolpath as well, and then we're gonna flip it over and we're gonna try to miter on the back. We're gonna see what we can do with that and everything, and see if what we can accomplish there and stuff. All right, beautiful. So there is our base profile for these feet, right? So now we take we take our profiles, not the lines, and the profiles are not all at the same height. Some are higher and some are lower and all. It's very important. It's very important that that they're all the same height. So I've got them centered in here, but I need them centered, right? All of them. So select just those and align. Let me just do one at a time. Doing one at a time because I just am. You can gang them up, but okay. Now I want to turn my guidelines back on because again, my guidelines, my part was made based off of those guidelines. Make sure I have my curvature there. And I know where I screwed up. I know why it was looking off and everything. My drive rail is up here and my drive rail is down here instead of where they should be. So give me 2 seconds. My drive rail needs to be down on my top guideline. I was wondering why my bead was a little high. This drive rail needs to be up here. All right, one more time. Let me sweep that across. Select. And that's why my part was taller or was thicker than it was. It stretched it. And when it stretches X and Y, it also stretches Z. That explains why 0.7416 turned to 0.79 and some change. There's always a reason for something. So it's just a matter of we stumble across it. All right, so one more time, let's apply that. Beautiful. All right, let's close that. Let's go into our part just to make sure. 7416, outstanding. Let's go into our job setup because things have changed a little bit. Make sure we're still at the top there. Beautiful. All right, so yes, I want to recalculate all the toolpaths, right? So it's important. All right. So screwed up, fixed the screw up, found the screw up, right? That kind of thing. I kept looking at my bead going, my bead's a little high. It's at the top. But it needs to come right across the top of the leg there. It would have, had I would have left it and had I not caught it now, it would have been on the outside of the leg, which I don't know how that would have turned out, but we are calculating. I don't know what we're calculating, but we are calculating something, the finish. And then remind me to hit save when, hey, Ron Bishop, thanks for popping in. Hey, Doug Fushi, thanks for popping in. Keith Kessler, good to see you. Kurt H, all right, everybody popping in now. That's good. There we go. JR, I do it every time. I'm going to hide you for a moment, JR. All right, so we're calculated. Now, profile cut, ladies and gentlemen. Select your profiles. And profile cutout. It's a straight cut, right? Believe it or not, it is. We're going to cut all the way through the material. And I believe I gave myself enough room for a 1/4 inch bit. I'll know when I calculate the toolpath. I think I was smart enough and left a 1/4 inch in between that. We'll see. Calculate. Let me see if the toolpath goes all the way around. It does. Now, here's the thing. Right here, I got a little tight corner and all, so I might want to use a smaller bit. Now, I do have a 1 inch or a 1/8 inch bit that'll cut 1 inch thick material. And, so to reduce that little area there, I think I'm actually going to go down to the 1/8. I got a speed tool, 1/8 extra long cutting bit. And that's going to give me a little bit, tighter in my cuts and everything. All right, let's preview this visible toolpath. Okay, let's stop and look at something here. I'm going to undo that last. What I'm looking at, ladies and gentlemen, is I did not recalculate my rough cut and finish cut. I thought I did. What's happening here? Hang tight for a moment, folks. Okay, that looks good. My profile cut, however, did not look good when it cut out. It's cutting off the top of the bead and the bottom of the foot. Like it's cutting on the inside of the line almost, instead of the outside. It's very strange. It should be cutting out on the outside and give me a moment, because I know, yeah, that's cutting off half my bead. All right, profile cut. Do you see anything? Let me look here. Do you see anything outside cut?
I don't think you recalculated though after you changed your guide rail lines.
Recalculate. Oh, hold on a second. That looks a little bit better. That looks taller. Let's see. No. Okay. Hold on. 3D finish. Recalculate. I could have swore I just recalculated the. Maybe it didn't calculate properly. Hold on a second. I'm recalculating now. Where'd you? It's calculating. While that's calculating, I'll go back and look at there we go. Okay, let me recalculate the rough cut too. Okay. All right, let's take a look at this. Let's preview the visible toolpaths. So my rough cut should remove just a small amount. Okay, you may be right. I might not have recalculated what I thought I did. I could have swore we froze up a minute ago when I said I was recalculating. We'll get that. Now on the feet, I'm going to have to, on my waist here, I'm going to have to put in some alignment pins. It's going to be we're going to do a two-sided job. We're going to flip this because we are going to try to miter it on the backside and see what we can do with that chamfer cut and everything. But before we do the flipping on, I want to do this as a molding toolpath, so you can see that for those of you that have desktop and pro. I want you to see that, and then And then we'll move over to side 2 and kind of work on that. All right, so here's my foot. And I should have that little bit of bead. All right. Everything should be recalculated right now. And I see a full bead. That's good. Okay. All right, wonderful. Okay, great. So let's get rid of the waste. Wonderful. Okay. So now what we end up with is we end up with the, the straight version of these. And Ronnie, if you don't mind me asking, are you making yours on your CNC right now? Are you making them on the CNC, or are you doing them on a router table? Or
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a lot of steps, right? Because first thing I got to do is go rip, to inch and 5/8. And then there's 3 different bits on the router table. And then, after that, I have a template that I use on the scroll saw to cut out that profile.
right?
Of course, I do my
So
miter
could you-
before I go to the scroll saw, I should say that.
Right.
Because
I got you. Yep.
but you're
So
holding these
could you see this as a benefit?
Oh, yeah. I mean, actually, what I was thinking would be maybe on my end would be faster because I'm making quite a few of these. Is using once I identify the profile I like, is I would send that piece of stock over to the guy that makes my molding knives,
Yes.
my molding machine.
100%.
Yeah, then I could take the piece of molding over to the CNC to do all of
And then just do profile cuts.
Yeah.
Just a profile cut. 100%. You're absolutely right. And that's another thing, ladies and gentlemen, is literally now, it's hard to find it in non-primed or anything like that, but you could also take, actual pieces of molding and, clamp on the table and cut out these profiles to make all kinds of, decorative feet, for boxes and stuff, if the right size and all. But anyway, yes. So for you, Ronnie, in a production situation like that, absolutely, you could identify a profile that you like. You can make a profile knife for that. Have your parts run, through your molder, right? If you have a molder,
Yeah.
and then take that piece over and just do a profile cut, right? That kind of thing. But also, we're going to try to work on the miter on the backside to, say this. Now, what I would do up to this point, right, is once these are cut out, now these are going over to my little sled. I've got, a 45-degree bevel on my table saw, and I'm cutting out these little feet, right? I've got a little sled that holds the parts and everything, so I'm safe and all that stuff. But if I could create that chamfer, if you will, on the back side of this, before the cutout, then that would be absolutely astonishing. So cool. So we're going to try that. So that's what we're looking at, right? So now on the back side is with that chamfer, could also do a pocket cut across the top here. Let me turn this over. Could do a pocket cut a certain depth across the top that would allow the box to sit when these miters are glued together. It creates kind of a ledge for the box to sit on, or for it to be on the outside. And again, once again, to understand what I'm talking about, so how this foot is on the outside of the box. There on the back side, there's either a piece of wood glued back there, low profile, probably right around this area. And the box base, this is added to the box base. The box base is in here. The box base is sitting on that lip on the inside. Now that lip is either a piece of material that they've, CA glued or whatever, wood glued in, or it's actually part of the foot that they, which could be accomplished by milling just a simple end mill running through there and milling a pocket down. You'll see that. We'll do that in just a second. All right, so now let's take a look at this really quickly as a molding toolpath. Same situation, because our feet, the profile cut, that's the trick to it all, is that profile cut's a profile. No matter what that profile is, it could be flat, It could have curve to it. It could be whatever, but that profile cutout, that shape, no matter what our piece looks like behind it that we're cutting those feet out, the feet are just going to have the shape or whatever. Now, this particular one actually matches the foot, right? But we can change this profile up and it could be anything. And again, to reference, we could have, it could be just a smooth, no bead at the top. We could have a nice little grooves in there, or just like this. It could be flat. We could have a little decorative edge, and I'll show you how to do this roll too. It's a very simple process as well. All right, let's turn off the 3D model. Okay, so we have this. When we're using a molding toolpath, ladies and gentlemen, when we're using the molding toolpath, we need a drive rail and a profile. And on this particular profile, we are sweeping it across. And so we're going to just use this upper rail here. Okay, that upper rail is going to be our drive rail. So we'll select that first. When we hold our shift key down and we'll select this profile last, what we should see are a bunch of orange lines shoot down this board. Okay, now notice how this is being created and how the lines are short here. It thinks that this part is, bear with me, let me close the molding toolpath. It thinks that this part is like this, right? So it's trying to mold that way. And what we need to do is we actually have to turn this back up, right? We need to remove this back leg, or this bottom leg, should I say. Node edit, delete that span. And we need to put the span across the back here. And we'll go to height. And we'll make sure that this is joined as one vector. Now, in that molding toolpath, if I am right with the world, when I select this and I select this, no. Of course, it's going to make me out to be a liar. It's going to make me out to be a liar. Let me delete. I need to sweep that across. Let me see. I don't think it's bear with me, folks. I always get my drive rail and yeah, so that's that. Turn this 90 degrees. Come on, Lenny. Think and wrap your head around it, buddy. Okay. All right, let me see what that's creating just so I can visualize this. Okay, good. All right, it's crazy. It's so crazy. It makes no sense to me at all. The profile, I can put this leg back, by the way. Let me do that. Give me a second to back step a couple of steps here. All right, so the profile, it's crazy. It needs to be turned on its side, 90 degrees. And when we, it's crazy why it has to be turned that way. But we're going to select this profile. We're going to select this. Our line should come all the way to that from top to bottom. And it's just insane. Anyhow, so we're going to use, in this case, I'm going to change from my 1/8 inch tapered ball nose. I am going to still use my 16th inch tapered ball nose. Just because I have that little bead at the top and all, I want to, kind of get in as close as I can with that. And I'm going to calculate this. Okay. Now, when this cuts, right? So you're going to see that very similar cut that we saw as the 3D model, right? So this is your molding toolpath. Now, it's a molding toolpath. So there's the only thing you can see is just this result, right? The toolpath simulation, but it doesn't matter. Lay your feet out as if that profile was there, like you could see it, right? And when it's a molding toolpath, lay your feet out, and it's just a profile cut, right? You do your swept profile, and then that profile cut still cuts out. Let's go to the 3D view, preview the visible toolpath. Let's spin this around, and I'm upside down. Bear with me just a second. Undo the last. Upside down, ladies and gentlemen. So in that swept profile that I have here, I need to right click and reverse the direction. I need to start here. This is the top. Calculate. And then preview. Okay, very important. Green node is the top of our top line. Okay, so when the feet cut out, like I said, it's going to be the same as if it was a 3D model from Aspire, right? Same shape and everything, however you want. And so both methods get us from point A to B. The only difference is with Aspire, we can see the model, right? And we have that model, and we could, it's just visualization, right? If we didn't have Aspire and we create the profile, where we have to calculate the toolpath and preview the toolpath to see the result, and that's it. So it's just a visualization thing. And sometimes when I'm, looking at my feet, I want to visualize it. So in order to visualize it in Desktop or Pro, I just have to create both toolpaths. I have to cut them out, right? And I have to preview them like this, right? Versus if I did it as the model. All right. So either way, doesn't matter, right? So that's that. Let's set this up as a two-sided gig, right? And let's see what we can accomplish there. So I'm actually going to throw a 1/4 inch diameter dowel here. And I'm going to throw another one, don't matter, somewhere in there. Move over a little bit. Okay. All right. And so let's create on this side. This will be, now we're cutting the back first. So these holes on the front side are the waste board holes. Okay. What you see here, the holes I just drew here, they're going to get in and cut into the waste board. When we copy them, well, let's set up the two-sided job first. When we copy these over, copy to the other side, those are going to get cut into the board, right? Those are going to get cut first. So these will be our, because we're cutting this back first, we're going to cut our miter and whatever we do first. The reason why we're doing that is because our board is only, in this situation, it's only as thick as our foot. So when we cut that curve, we don't have a flat surface to reference off of, right? Unless I made the board slightly bigger or slightly wider, right? That kind of thing. So when I cut the miter here, I can still flip this over and I still have what am I trying to say? I still have meat, flat meat that I can flip it on. And we're also going to thin up these feet ever so slightly. We're going to use a 3/4 inch board, but we're going to make them 5/8 when it's done. You'll see why in just a second if we're going to do the miter. All right. So this is going to be a drilling tool path. I'm going to cut 3/8 of an inch deep. And the reason why I always cut 3/8 of an inch deep on my first holes and I cut a 1/4 inch deep in my wasteboard holes is because my dowel pins are a 1/2 inch long. So if I cut 3/8 in my board and then a 1/4 of an inch in my wasteboard and all, that gives me about 1/8 of an inch of play so I don't bottom out, on my 1/2 inch dowels. And my 1/2 inch dowels, they're 1/4 inch dowels, but 1/2 inch in length. They are just 1/4 inch steel pins cut down to a 1/2 inch long. Not necessarily a shelf pin, but you can buy 1/4 inch metal dowels in a pack of 5 or 10 on Amazon for a couple bucks. And they come in they're almost like an inch long or so. And you just cut them in half. Okay. So long story short, this is going to be my alignment holes. .25 end mill. That's going to be those. Now, when we cut this miter, if we let this miter cut, the miter has to cut all the way through in a sense for this part, right? So it's a miter. So when the pieces come out, they go together. There's not like little wood that I have to chisel and none of that. We don't want to deal with any of that crap, right? So when these things get miter cut, chamfered, they need to be able to be glued together and be tight and right? Well, if I run, my part is I only got this much meat here and this much meat down here. And if I run a miter bit, a V bit, all the way through my material, 3/4 of an inch, as wide as that bit is, right? 90-degree bit for a 45-degree cut. If I run that all the way through, because of its sheer diameter and everything, it's cutting through. Now I'm going to have segmented pieces, right? I'm not going to have, the board's not going to be intact for me to flip to the other side, right? It's literally going to slice this board wherever these lines are. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to reduce the thickness of the foot, not the material, but the foot. We're going to reduce it down to 5/8. And then we're going to have this miter cut 5/8 of an inch deep. That still gives us 1/8 of an inch of material, which is a decent thickness of material that keeps the board intact, right? And so when we flip it over and everything, we do our cut and all, our model is only going to be 5/8, and it's going to be reduced. It's going to be down 1/8 of an inch in the position of the material, so that material gets milled away when it starts doing that model cut and everything. And we're still going to have wood. It'll still hold intact and everything for our final profile cutout. There's still going to be wood there for that and everything. All right, so hopefully that'll make sense. That makes sense, and it'll make sense even more when we actually do it. So let's look at on side one. Let's flip this over to side one, and on our profile, regardless of if we do this profile as a molding tool path or what, we need it to be 5/8, not 3/4. So I'm simply going to take a guideline, which I already have laid out here, and I'm actually going to I don't necessarily need a guideline, but I'm going to I still want a little bit of waste here. So, but I'm going to come in here and make a relative guideline negative going left 0.625. Create that guideline here. And all I need to do is in node editing, just bring this up, right? Okay. So now my part should be, close to 5/8. It's 0.6166 again, because we're leaving a little bit of material to get milled away, by the model and all that stuff. So that's good. So we're less than 0.625. So that's going to be, we're going to be cutting this out of a 3/4 inch piece. What that looks like, ladies and gentlemen, is in our model position in our material, right? In our model position in our material, we don't have a model just yet. Let's actually create it really quickly. So select this rail, hold the shift key down, select that rail, 2 rail sweep. Oops. That's our drive rails. Check that first. Select this and apply. Now we have a model, right? And again, same thing if it was a molding toolpath, but now we have a 5/8 inch model. Now, if we look at our material setup, we now have this 0.1334, right? That 1/8 of an inch that we talked about, because we're at 5/8 of an inch thick on a 3/4 inch board, but we also have that little additional because our part is not exactly 0.625, it's 0.6166, right? We give it a little meat. So that extra meat is there. So that here. Now, here's the thing. We need that at the top of the material because on the back side, we're cutting this miter. The miter's cutting 5/8 of an inch deep. So imagine that where the V bit is cutting from the back side down to this line right here, at 5/8. That leaves that 0.1334 to keep our board intact, right? So it's not going to fall to pieces or anything like that. So our miter, our chamfer or miter, whatever you want to call it, is cutting to that line. And that is what our models are getting cut to, so that when they get cut out, we should have a perfect miter cut from the front of our foot, 45 degrees back, right? All right, so is everybody following along with that? Save. Someone says, yeah, let's do that real quick. But is everybody following along and understanding the method to that? Why we reduce this? Because we're going to try to chamfer the back. We're going to try to create the miters on the CNC. And we just can't let that bit, the tip of the bit, go all the way through the material on a 3/4 inch board. Otherwise, we now have pieces. We can't, there's no flipping, right? That kind of thing. So our foot's going to be 5/8 of an inch wide versus 3/4. Now, if I needed a 3/4 inch foot, then I'd have a 1 inch board, thick board, whatever. My board's got to be slightly thicker. Okay, so now another thing that we have to take into consideration, right? My model cut, when my model starts cutting here, right? It's, if I let the model cut the entire piece all the way across, like you see here, well, what's it doing? It's removing that material down to this level. Well, what's at that level? A miter cut on the back side, right? The point of the miter cut. So if I do a 3D carve and allow it to cut the entire piece on that front side, I'm literally removing the material down to that miter. And now what's happening is when it's coming back and forth here, I'm opening up, and I'm rastering. So it's starting at the bottom, working its way up like a printer. But as it's working its way up, these pieces they're not connected to anything. They're all loose, right? So it's fine for about a little ways, but as it gets higher and higher and the pieces are getting looser and looser, there's nothing holding them together, right? And so I could do tabs. Well, I'm not dealing with any of that. What we need to do is when we do our 3D cut is we need to make sure we have our vector selected and we use the selected vector as the boundary. That way the material in between the feet don't get cut. So that, and we can let the bit go past the boundary a little bit, but we still keep this meat intact here. And that's what's going to hold everything together before we do our final profile cut, right? All these things you have to take into consideration when you're, when you're dealing with something like this. All right, so we have our setup, material setup. We have that material, the model shrunk down to the size we want. We have that extra 0.1334 inches of meat there on that front side. Wonderful. Now we can go focus on the back side and focus on figure out our miters and all. All right, so let's get our bottom here. Now, when we're flipped, because I have this board flipping like this, right? So my feet are upside down, and that's fine, right? This side here, and let me put the vectors. Let me copy the vectors to the other side as well, so we can actually have those. That'll make life so much easier on us. Copy to other side, right? So that way when we're back here, we can see them and all. Now our miter cuts are cutting on this edge, not this edge down here, but this is these are the two edges that come together, right? Those are the two edges that come together and everything here. Now there's space here, right? Well, our miter cut, so let's just draw a bit here. 45, 45. All right, so our bit here, right, when it's cutting the miter, half that bit, right? When it cuts that miter and everything, don't do what I did and assume that's where the miter cut is. You got to think of kind of like a linear, a straight line, right? So you have to kind of almost think as if these parts are boxed out. So let me box these out really quickly. Okay, so that miter cut, when it's cutting here, when that bit is cutting, it's cutting this line, right? And it's creating that miter cut. That doesn't change, right? It's just, well that, hold on, I just screwed up. Trying to drag my line, I drug my side, but when it cuts, it's cutting a straight linear line, just like if it was a saw blade or a chop saw. We don't tilt the leg a little bit to make the blade come and all the leg is held straight. Our miter saw is cutting straight down, that kind of thing, or, at a 45 degree, but it's a straight line, a linear line. So we're going to cut this straight line. And just because our foot is curved, our miter follows that, that curve and everything. And then that's fine and everything, but it's a linear cut. We don't make that miter cut try to follow. And we definitely don't put the miter cut in here because now that miter cut is cutting down this straight line and it's outside of this part. This will be square here, right? So we don't want that. So we want our bit to kind of cut this line. And so what we do is we box off each of these vectors. I'm going to hold down the control key, right? And I'm just snapping them to here, right? Hold down the control key, grab it right here, and I'm just going to snap it to that foot, drag, snap it to that foot, control key held down, so I'm making copies, and then I'll take this one, grab it right on the corner, so that way when I hold the control key, I'm holding it, I'm dragging it by that corner. Now, if I let go of my mouse right here and kind of drop that right there, don't hold the control key when you're moving this because you're just moving a copy, right? I want to actually move it. I'm going to snap it to there, to that corner. Now I'm going to hold the control key down because I actually need to move a copy over. All right, so what that does, the reason why we're doing it as a box is just easier, right, to get everything lined up. And then, but we're only using this line. That's our vector line that we're actually cutting, right? That line right there is all we're cutting. Okay, and so we can basically go into node editing and we can delete the 3 spans that we're not actually using, right? We're only using that line. So same thing here. Delete the span, delete the span, delete the span. Now we don't have to delete the spans, but we do have to at least cut this line free because that needs to be just that line. That's our profile cut that our V-bit's going to follow for this chamfer. Okay. All right. So rinse and repeat all the way down. Delete, span. I'm in node editing mode. Right clicking on it, delete the span. And the span we're keeping is the one that's at the end of the foot here, right? That's the one we're keeping. Everybody following along, give me a yes or no in the chat and all that stuff. If you're understanding and I haven't lost you, you're kind of getting it. And you understand what we're trying to accomplish here on this. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and hit save again. Since I have Keith yelling at me, save. It's very important. Thank you for the reminder because I always forget. All right. All right. So now we know we're going to be using a V-bit, right, to make this cut and everything. Well, we're gonna extend these lines, and we're gonna extend the line so the bit can kind of come off the board and then just cut right straight across, right? So we're going to select these lines, all of them together. Hold the shift key down. Hold the shift key down. And then second click, we'll double click on them and we're going to come right here to the middle, hold down our shift key, and we're going to pull up. And literally just pulling up past the line here, and because we hold the shift key down, it does it evenly on both sides. Okay, cool. Now, something else one other additional line that I want to draw here is if I did want to create that shelf, if you will, right, that shelf, if you will, that pocket shelf, let's say, it kind of depends on how deep I want the box to sit or how far up. Let me, again, for reference, when I say deep, let me go back to this actual box. How deep do I want the box to sit down? Now, the box is actually at the bottom of this trim right here. So I would say it's sitting down about 1/4 of an inch, right, in there. And so that pocket that's cut on the backside is about 1/4 of an inch. And then there's a piece of material on the backside that's sitting on it. So those feet, they wrap around on the outside. And then these parts are, glued in, all the way around too, to create those decorative parts as well. All right. So if I'm going to draw a line here, and I'm just going to draw a short line to start off with, and I'm going to offset that line inward. And let's say I do want to go, I don't know, 0.3. Let me see how, too much. Let's go 1/4. And again, it could be whatever you want, but 1/4 is going to be it for me. All right, so now I'm going to take both of those lines and I'm just literally going to extend them across to the material here. And once that's done, I'm going to join with a straight line on both ends. So now, so you can see I have a box because it's going to be a pocket cut, right? If we do that. All right. So this is our vectors for the back side. Single lines for our chamfer, and then our little box for our pocket if we're going to do that lip, right? Now, if the feet, going back to my box here, right? So in my box, let me go big real quick. JR, are you with me? Let me bring JR back on there. Okay. So on the feet here, this one is not wrapping around the front of the box. It's at the bottom, right? So it actually sits literally on the top of, just like on those parts and all. There's no wraparound. There's no lip required on the back side of that, right? There's no, piece of material or anything like that. We're creating that lip just to kind of, so it has something to sit on, so it could wrap around the front if I wanted that decorative look, just like on that other foot. Ronnie, on your feet have the flat and everything. Do they just sit underneath the box?
Yes, they do. I offset outwards just a bit.
Okay.
That's why I
So
think
to
that
create like a little definition, to create like a little shadow, it sticks out just slightly.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
And
You do that
that's
as well.
why I think, talking about that rabbit or that pocket would be really helpful in terms of affixing it to the bottom of your box, because you'd have a good index point to
Sure.
bring it up.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. All right. So let's now this is, again, I haven't chamfered on the CNC on the backside, and also you're learning this just like I am. Just kidding. But no, not seriously. We're going to create a chamfer cut, and we could do a profile cut, right? And to a certain depth, right? That's literally it. But we can also do it as a chamfer cut as well too, and we can kind of see where that cut's going to or anything. I mean, literally, it's a profile cut. I'll do it both ways so we can see, the difference and all. So let's do it as a profile cut first. So we'll select this vector, and as far as the start points and all, want to be as efficient as possible. So I'd like to have that bit come down and cut, step over, cut, move over, cut, step over, cut, move over, cut, step over, cut, right? Back and forth, that kind of thing. So what I want to do is on here, I'm going to go into node editing, and I'm going to make this first one my start point, and I'm just going to reverse and make this the start point. So that would be, if this is the start point going up, then it's going to come over. This one's going to be the start point. Going to cut down to here. So this one would be the start point. It's going to cut up, come over. This will be the start point. It'll cut, come over, and this one will be the start point. Okay, and up. Okay, so now when I select these, I'm going to select them in this order. So hold down the shift key, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And on my profile toolpath, I'm going to cut 5/8 of an inch deep. And if you wanted to, you could cut slightly deeper just to get the tip just past 5/8, but don't go too much deeper, right? So I'll just go 0 point, instead of 625, right? I'll just go 0.635, an extra 0.010 of an inch. Let's go 0.63. Yeah, 10,000 will be okay. Yeah, I'll still have 1/8 of an inch of material because I have a 0.1334 inch piece of material in there. So yeah. All right, so that's fine. So 0.635, we're going to use a 90-degree V-bit. And we are going to be cutting on the line. Okay. Now, here's the kicker on this. When this bit comes and it cuts down this line, right? What we want to ensure is that, this over here, because the bit is cutting, it's only a 1/2 inch wide bit. Now, this bit is much wider than a 1/2 inch. It's only a 1/2 inch wide bit. We want to make sure that we're not cutting, we're not screwing anything up on the other side, right? And it's really not. But still, we want to make sure that we have nice, clean cuts. We'll see that. We will know that from the toolpath preview instantly. So we're going to select these vectors. Make sure we select them in the proper order. So this one first, then that one, this one, and that one. Now it's important down here. I want to go in the order, the vector selection order. And in the start at, I want to keep the current start point. So it's going to cut, move over, cut, move over, cut, move over, cut in that order, right? So it'll optimize my toolpath. It'll be faster. All right. So we're going to, this will be my, I'll just call it my miter cut, right? And 90 DEGV bit, cutting point 635 inches deep. Calculate that toolpath. What we should see is something that looks like that. Okay. Righto, righto. Now, still have that meat there, and we can see that our miter, you know, not cutting in or damaging anything in there. Very good. Looks good so far and all. And so we can still, we still have to do our little pocket cut, but we can still flip that board over and there's still plenty of meat, right? You know, in here in this area, you know, holding everything intact and together. Now, before we do the miter cut, given that the miter cut is cutting, you know, down to that 5/8, and there is, you know, it is creating some kind of weakness, we're going to do the pocket cut first, because the pocket cut isn't going to be very deep. So on the pocket cut, we're going to go on your lip. Let's take a look at this. This is not a good example because it's really thin on the front. Let me switch to a different image. I don't think I have a good image, but on our pocket cut, we're going to be removing, forget this little piece of wood back here. Let me see, do I have another angle of that? No, I don't have a, let me see here. What photos do I have? Okay, of course I didn't pick any of the right angles. We'll use this one as an example, but on this pocket cut, right? So one is how deep it's cutting. However deep, however much material we remove off the back of this with that pocket cut going across, then that's how much material, when the box is sitting in there, how much of the leg, when it wraps around the front of the box, how thick is that, right? How much do we want, you know, sticking out from it? I'd like, you know, at least 1/8 of an inch or so, right? You know, maybe even 3/16 or whatever it is. So I want to make sure that when I remove the material off the back, that's going to determine how deep my 1/4 inch bit cuts. When I remove that material off the back, how much material is left here is going to be important. And we have to remember that this model cut, this level right here, it's not 3/4, you know, it's back further. So here's what I need to do to determine that. I need to flip back over to side one. Let's close this just for a second. I need to flip back over to side one, and I need to kind of go to the top here, right, to the model. And on this model, if I hover the mouse kind of at the height of this peak right here, right? So we'll say that I'm at negative 0.3087, right? So here at the bottom of the foot, I'm at negative 0.1334, right? That's that little bit of meat that's above the model, right? That's that little bit of meat right here. That's when that meat, that little brown meat right there gets cut away, that's the bottom of my foot, 1334. But this foot tapers in as that carve happens. So literally this level right here is negative 0.3041, almost 3/8 of an inch, right? So that means if I have a 3/4 inch board, my pocket cut that's going to be cutting off the back of this right here, my pocket cut that's going to be cutting off the back of this, whatever I remove from this material, that's how much is going to be remaining here, right? So I'm going to just maybe take off a 1/4, you know, inch depth and everything, and then I'll be able to look at, when we do the finished cut, we'll see how much material is there, and then I can kind of gauge what I would like after that. You can also do the math and all that stuff too. So knowing that, on this pocket cut, I'm going to pocket it down 1/4 of an inch and calculate that. Let's flip this back around, preview that visible toolpath. Okay, now let's look at this, right? So this is what we've got. This is what we're dealing with. Okay, now that pocket cut would be, the alignment holes would happen, and the pocket cut, they're both using a 1/4 inch end mill, they would happen together, right? So on this pocket, I'm going to call this, rename this. I'm going to call this my, it's going with the grain. So it's a groove. Potato goes against the grain. Groove goes with the grain. Groove. 0.25 end mill. Okay, so my alignment holes will happen, the groove will happen, and then that miter cut's going to happen. Now at that point, then the board gets flipped over and gets moved out of the way first, and then we come in on here and we do our waste board alignment holes. So that's the first tool path. We have a drilling operation cutting 1/4 of an inch deep with our 1/4 inch end mill. And this is going to be our waste board alignment holes. Now, some people have pockets or jigs or something they create where they can flip the board and it's, you know, exactly right every single time, and all that stuff, and everything. That's all good. I use alignment holes. It's really up to, you know, as long as you make sure that when you flip it, your XY is the same. I'm starting in the center of the board here. So literally center, no matter which way I flip it. But if I was starting at the bottom left corner of the board, the bottom left corner going up, when that board flips over, now my top is the bottom left corner for the other side going up. If my board is off in measurement any and everything, it's not going to be the same, right? So that's where alignment holes comes in, you know. But anyhow, all right, let's calculate that. Okay, so that'll be our waste board alignment holes. Now that's going to be the first cut that we do, and then we're going to come in here now. Very important. We are going to look at a rough cut. It's not going to, a rough cut's not taking a whole lot of material, but it is taking some. But we are not going to let it, like I said, we're not going to let it cut the entire board. We're only going to be using the selected vectors as the boundary. Okay, and we'll go ahead and calculate this. This will be our 3D rough profile, and then 0.25 end mill. Calculate that, and only a little bit of material is getting removed there, right? Now, the reason why that little bit of material is getting removed is, remember now, our part is 1.1334 inches down, right? The part, so it's got to mill away that material. Okay, so it's milling away. If I hover the mouse right over here, you can see that 1/8 of an inch. That Z, that 1/8 of an inch, is taking it to there. All right, so now we all still together. Everybody still with me? Nobody putting to sleep yet? All right, here we go. So now we have the finish cut. The finish cut, again, I'm using a small bit because I'm really getting, you know, trying to get in. I really want to get that in there. So the selected vector is the boundary. Now this time I want the bit to go slightly past the boundary. I want a nice clean cut on my model. If my bit has to stop at the line, the vector line, then it's stopping, you know, at that line, and I'm not getting really like right up to the right up to the edge of that cut. So I'm going to let it go past the line by, you know, a little. My bit is a this is a 1/16 inch diameter bit with a 32nd inch radius. So I can let it go past the line by, we'll just go a 1/16 of an inch. That's 5/8. We'll go a 1/16, and we'll see how well that does. We got to see if everything holds together, right? That's the important part. But we're going to let it go past the line. And so vector, it's going to go past. If we come over and turn on the vectors, let's straighten this out real quick. We're going past that vector by that 1/16 of an inch here, right? So here's our vector line right there. We're just crossing over. But there's still plenty of meat here. I say that sparingly because it's been you know, milled away, right? So there's not, it's sparingly. But what's important is we need to make sure that when we do go past the model and all, that we're not quite, you know, cutting in. Because look at our rough cut really quickly. I just want you to see here. See that space right there? Our rough cut, you know, kind of opened up that little window there, right? All right, so now let's do the finish cut preview. All right, now here's the problem. Not necessarily a problem. We're still good. Still good. There. We're still good. Still holding together here. Our profile cut still has to come. Our profile cut still has to come and cut this part out. So now this is where if we are going to use a piece that's this big and things like that, there's no tabs happening here, right? There's not going to be any tabs. The minute that bit, that profile bit cuts to this point on this side here, that part is gone. So it's got to cut through the material right here. It's got to cut all the way through the material here. Well, it's only got to cut a little bit right here and a little bit right there. And it's, you know, it's free. So this is where this part, if you're going to use a part this small, number one is two-sided tape for sure, or tape and CA glue so these parts don't move, right? Because again, it's the profile cut has to cut all the way around, all the way around, all the way around, but it only has to cut a little bit here for that to be gone. Okay, gone. So let's do our profile toolpath. And it looks like it's already still laid out for that. So we're cutting 3/4 of an inch deep. I'm using an 1/8 inch end mill to get into those little nooks and crannies and stuff. And so we're going to calculate that toolpath. Like I said, now, once we get past the first two passes, this part is on this side, this part is free, right? It's not connected to the rest of the parts anymore. So the two-sided tape is the only thing that's going to be holding it in place. So it's going to be very important. Now, bear with me a minute. The profile cut was not the way to go on the back. It's got to be the chamfer cut because the bit only stayed linear there. And so the miter's only right here on the backside, and it actually doesn't travel up to where it's supposed to. So it's got to be a chamfer cut. It cannot be a profile cut because the miter has to travel all the way back to the back of this part here from the front to the back. All right, so let's go back. Let's get this spun around to the top here. And let's reset this. Let's preview all the tool paths, all sides. I'm going to turn this just a little bit so we can see kind of at an angle. Okay. On the back side, when that channel cuts, the miter has to travel all the way back. You know, it's got to be the full miter for that full 5/8, and it's not, because we had it go straight down, right? We had it go straight down and everything, and the bit's not wide enough to be how wide the miter is. The miter is going to be longer, so it's got to be a chamfer cut. So here's what we do. Flip it over to side 2, profile cut, miter profile cut, no good. So we're actually going to get rid of that, and we're going to do a chamfer cut. And on the chamfer cut, we'll do one line just so you can see what happens and all. Chamfer cut is going to start at 0. And it's going to, over here, we're going to be using a 90-degree V-bit, which automatically is going to lock in. Let's go a little bit bigger on this. Give me just a second, just so y'all can see. What screen is it? How do I, give me just a second here. Throw the guys and I down at the bottom here real quick. So on the chamfer, because I'm choosing a 90-degree V-bit here, it automatically locks in that 45-degree angle, and it's grayed out. Can't change it. The only thing I can change is my width or my cutting depth, right? Well, my cutting depth is going to be 5/8, right? Or I could go 0.635. Like I said, you know, in this case, I'm actually going to, instead of 5/8, instead of 0.63, that extra 10 thousandths, I'm going to back that off a little bit. I'm just going to go 0.63. And I know it's not much. It's you know, we're talking only 5 thousandths of an inch, but 5 thousandths is 5 thousandths. So I'm going to go here, and 0.63 is going to be my cut. And because I changed the depth, it's a 90-degree V-bit. So whatever my depth is, my angle, my width, let's call it, not angle, sorry, the width is going to pretty much match. So my width is going to be also 0.63. Now, notice what's happening here. I've got this line selected for this part, but my arrows are pointing in the wrong direction. That's because I got to choose the chamfer type. On the chamfer type, the arrow heads are pointing towards the deepest part of the cut. Okay, that's the deepest part of the cut. The arrowheads are pointing at the deepest part of the cut. And the deepest part of our cut is happening right here at this edge, right? So we need those arrowheads pointing to that line. And right now we're on the inside of the line because of the node editing, right? You know, the nodes, inside, outside. So we're not going to have one chamfer toolpath for all of our lines, because our lines, our start points are different, right? Remember, I reversed them. So we're going to have a toolpath, a chamfer toolpath for each line. So on this particular line, because the start point is down here, we're not actually inside the line, we're outside of the line, okay? Now, remember I said the arrowheads point to the deepest part of the cut, so they need to actually be pointing to the line. So instead of sloping downward, they need to slope upward, okay? So what that means is from the deepest part of the cut, they slope upward inside the part, right? Creating that 45-degree miter, right? So when it gets to the back of the part here, it's at its highest point, right? Sloping upward. So outside of the line, just because of the start point is here. So inside left, outside right. So we're on the outside of the line. And then deepest part of the cut sloping upward. So we're sloping upward. All right, so when we calculate that toolpath, that's going to be chamfer 1 or whatever, right? Now, we come in here, and on that, did I not hit calculate? Hold on, let me do that again. We'll just call that chamfer 1. That's fine. Calculate, right? Got to hit calculate. Okay, so now if we look at that on this part here, right? If we reset the preview, right, and we preview all sides again with just this one chamfer so you can see and everything, let it go through its process real quick. And again, are you, I see yes with you. Yes. Good, good, good. I see a couple yeses, but it's a wrap. Yes. So, Ronnie's correct. Ronnie said, hey, sorry, I said dado for the pocket, but it's actually a rabbit, right? And a rabbit is on the edge of the board. When the edge, when one of the edges of the board are, getting cut, that's a rabbit cut, right? And when we're inside the edges, when we're inside going with the grain, that's a groove. And when we're going against the grain, that's a dado, right? So that's your 3 cuts. Well, in this case, a rabbit, like Ronnie said, because across the top of the part, we are rabbiting across the top of that part, right? And so since the part's getting cut out, that's our rabbit cut, which that also reminds me, we need to make our rectangle just a little bit bigger to kind of clean up that edge right there. But because that edge there is kind of inside from the edge and there's meat on the outside before it got milled away, it's a groove, right? So, but once this part cuts out, that's a rabbit. So it's semantics, right? And it's pretty cool stuff. But I do need to make my pocket just a little bit wider on this side so it cleans up that edge nicely. And for I want to kind of do that right now. Node editing, not node editing, sorry. Find my middle. There you go. I'm just going to pull this out just a little bit. I could pull it up to there. Yeah, it's not going to hurt anything pulling it up there. All right, so let me recalculate that. And then let me preview that. The reason being is when we're looking at this, I want to see that clean edge right there, right? When we're looking at this. All right, now let's go over to the right side here. And did I not, who's the idiot? Did I not choose a 90-degree V-bit? Did I not choose 0.63 right here when I calculated? How did it pop back to ball nose bit? Hang tight for a second. All right, let's preview that once again. Goofy stuff. There's our miter. The reason why I'm previewing this now, ladies and gentlemen, with just the one, want to verify everything, and then I'm going to rinse and repeat all the way down. Okay, and that's what I want to see. All right, so let me just get rid of this waste for a minute. I'm actually going to even get rid of this one, right? So when we're looking at this, that's what I want to see on that part, that miter, right? Because flip it around. Bear with me. On that part there, that's what I want to see. That miter cut all the way to that edge, right? All the way back, that 45 degrees. I'd have the same one on the other one. And when they come together, they create that 45-degree corner. So that looks wonderful. So with that, now on my chamfer, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more to do. I'm just going to duplicate. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can rename. Doesn't matter at this point, but 6. Rename 5. 4. 3. 2. Okay, so now we'll open up 2 and select this line. And when we select this line, it's important that we see those arrowheads pointing at the line. Okay, and the deepest part, and then up to the line. We don't want to see them any other way. And because our start point is here, right? Imagine if you're standing back here at this yellow line up here and you're looking at the start point. If you were looking at that, that would be your right side. This would be the left side, right? So since we have this chosen as outside, it's always going to, as long as like when I go and select on, let's calculate that one. And then let's go to chamfer 3. When I select it, it's going to be they'll be in there just like they're supposed to. Calculate that. Go to chamfer 4. Chamfer 4. Now, that is wrong right there. We got to fix that. So give me just a moment. Calculate. Come back here on this one. When chamfer 3 got calculated, my mouse hit evidently a different line or something. Let's recalculate that. Oh, I'm looking at the check mark. That's the way the bit's running. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I was getting myself confused. Okay, chamfer 5. Select that. Calculate. I was getting those arrows confused with the toolpath arrows, like which way the bit is actually carving, right? And then chamfer 6. Calculate. Beautiful. So now when we calculate all sides, right? Now each of our parts are going to have those miter cuts. And again, we're doing this backside first. We're cutting the rabbet, which is that groove across the top, right? We're cutting the chamfers, all 6 of the chamfers, and they'll be saved as one bit, or one toolpath, because they use the same bit. And we're chewing our drill holes, right? And that board's going to get flipped over. 2-side tape now at this point. Got to have some 2-sided tape on there, because when we flip this over and everything on that cut, when that 3D or when that profile cut comes and cuts, it's got to cut through all this material and in between the parts, right? But it's only cutting a couple passes before this piece breaks free, right? And so your 2-sided tape is going to be the only thing holding it, and it'll hold it. That'll be fine, for that. But now we have some beautiful parts with those miters, right? Now, that's troubling. That miter should extend all the way to here. Yes or no? Give me a minute. If I flip, I wish I could turn these parts. If I flip that in, no, that's right, isn't it, Ronnie? That's not collusion. When I put that part, but that edge to that edge, and I turn those in.
Yeah, it just looks like there's still some meat on Like you don't have a crisp edge right there where that cove is.
Yeah. The
Like it
miter
needs to be a little
shouldn't.
bit deeper.
Does the miter go all the way along that edge?
Yeah, when I
It
cut them
does,
on the
right?
table, so yeah, it's you've got a
It
crisp edge
does.
all the way down it. Yeah.
Yeah, all the way down that V cut. So that means that I need to cut deep.
Or you just got to move the line.
Yeah, either have to move the line or let me see. Let me look at this. Damn. I mean, that's a miter, those two miter cuts there, when I flip those together,
Well, they'll fit, but you'll have in that middle piece there where the meat is showing.
Yeah, you'll have some sort of like an eye artifact or something.
well,
Yeah.
isn't it, yeah, like an eye artifact, but is it true or is it a cove? But yeah, okay. So then, all right, so hold on a second. So that means I have to cut back to this line. My miter has to. I don't know, guys. Hold on a minute.
Well, it should be like down at the bottom of the foot where that that sharp curve's coming in from that cove. It should be like that all the way up to that top portion.
Yeah, it should be all the way like that. All right, so hang tight. We're on the right track. But like JR said, we may have to move our line back, but our depth, changing our depth isn't going to change anything with that 9-degree V-bit. We have to actually be back that miter cut. So, yes. So there's actually some waste on this foot. When that miter cut, if I was doing this as a miter saw, right? My miter cut, I would be making sure that it cuts in,
Right to the closest.
I would be sliding this foot over, just nudging it over and keep running that miter cut until I was right on that edge.
Right.
So there's some waste here. So that being said, I can't take my chamfer line now back too much further. Let me see here. Let's check off this toolpath here and take a look in the 3D view. Switch over to the back here. Yeah, I got to back. Yeah, because this is going to be waste. Well, that's actually a good thing for me for the profile cutout. That's a good thing for me for here, the meat that's here. So we got to back that off some. Okay. Yep. Yes. All right. So that line does have to back up some. Now, how far back depends on, when it starts. Cutting. So let's take this back. I don't want to do it that way. I want to be precise. Let's move this relative. Let's move it. Let's start back 1/8 of an inch. So 0.125. Recalculate that. It's got to cut all the way down. Am I moving the line the wrong way? Does the line need to go the other way? So the bit cuts deeper because
Cuts.
the arrows are pointing to the deepest part of the cut. So hold on a second. I think I'm moving the wrong way. I need to go positive 0.125. There we go. So now my deepest part's going to be out here. So it's going to be cutting back to there. Let's try that. Calculate. Preview. Come on, dude. Which one was that one? Number 6. Number 6 is this one. Okay. Does it look any smaller than that one? Hold on, let me optical delusion. So that one goes from there to there. They still look the same size. Okay. Okay.
Well, it
Changed
looks like
my-
it got bigger to me, but maybe not.
Yeah, that's why. Go back negative, but do it like
All
a
right,
half
let's-
inch just to see it.
Yeah, let's Control Z. Oops. Let's back the line up. Here, let's go, just so we can see extreme. We'll go extreme. Let's go 1/4 of an inch. Just want to see what's happening here.
I think that's going to be really close right there.
Calculate, but yeah, I got to be able to get out to here, but though it's not cutting out here. So when it cuts, let's see.
Might even need a wider V-bit.
No, not wider. Just a deeper cut. So I might have to go the full 3/4 instead of 5/8. Let's take a look here. We'll see. No, that's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's it.
Yep.
Just
That's
need a
mine
bigger
there.
board. Or longer board.
I think you still
No,
have
that's it.
enough.
Because that's it. Because that's my foot. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's that's it. Okay. So every one of these lines, they need. I'm actually going to take the line right back to here,
There you go.
and let's keep it. Let me do this. I'm going to take a guideline to help me. I'm going to kind of snap a guideline right there. So that way, when I grab this on the line, I can kind of pull straight, you know. And when I, that way, when I grab the line, I can just pull straight. Now, like JR was saying, if I wanted that longer foot, if I wanted a longer foot, then it's got to be a thicker board, longer material. Got to, you know, this part actually back here has to be stretched out a little bit more because it's going to cut to that regardless. So one more and one more. All right, but it is doable. That's the wonderful part. So we're going to recalculate all tool paths real quick. Oh, that was stupid. I should have just recalculated the chamfers. All right, now let's come in here and preview all sides. Okay, so that's exactly right, because when I do the miter cut and everything, it's going to create that little bunt foot. Let me show you. Let me see if I can pull that up online. Give me just a second. Jewelry box. Images. Give me just a moment. Come on, people, show me some good photos. And let me just really quickly, I want to, it's important. There's something happening right here. Something got screwed up right there. I got to fix that. So there's a cut happening right across here. Got to fix that. Give me 2 seconds. Of all the feet in all the world, what do you call, besides pedestal, are they bunt feet? Does that sound right too, or wrong?
I've always called them bracket feet, but
bracket feet.
Yeah.
Boxwood bracket feet. Okay. All right. That's getting me better, getting me closer. Okay, right here. Let me pull this over on the World Wide Web on our screen. Let's go here. So here, when that miter, I wish I had a close up, but it creates that small bunt foot, and of course, if I wanted it wider, if I want the foot wider, then I make it wider this way across the back edge and everything. Because
Not seeing what you're referencing, Lenny.
Oh, that's because I'm pointing at the wrong screen right here. So here, from the tip of the foot over, right, it's going to create that bump, which we're going to see here in the Vectric software in just a minute. But if I wanted this foot to be longer, then I would make this part back here wider that comes to the back, on the foot. So when it's bunted, when it's mitered, it's not as long as it was. There's a little bit of waste on the front. And on Ronnie,
Laney, I usually make that bottom of the foot like half of the overall top.
Yep.
Length,
yeah.
And then
and
the bottom
very much like you see this picture here. You see it's kind of at that half mark. Yeah. And if you look at the photo here, you're just about at that half mark, just like you're saying, So yes, those feet typically they fall right at that half mark. And that gives you that length. I don't know what mine are. Let's see here. Did I on the vectors? No, I am just under the half mark, right? So if I would have extended all this out a little bit and shorten that profile up, but the way I created it, it creates those short bunt feet. Now let's fix something really quickly here. There is on the front side, we have a new toolpath that presented itself, which is this swept profile. It doesn't belong here. Okay. And let's preview. So we should have our rough cut, our finish cut, our profile cut, wasteboard hole. So let's preview all sides once again. And then that should finish us up for the evening on these. Now, long story short, you can create the design foot you want. This profile cut, it's a profile cut. And like Ronnie was saying, heck, you could bring a piece of molded material already to the table and just profile cut it out, right? Now, if we are going to bring a piece of molded material that's already molded, we're going to make sure, Ronnie, if you do that with your knives, make sure you have some flat wood on the top and the bottom. Make sure your board's slightly wider than that molded area, because we need to be able to flip over to cut those miters on the backside, right? We got to have a platform. If this wood is already going to be molded on the front, that curve's already in, then we need a little lip along those two edges, so we have like something to stand on, when it's flipped upside down, so those miter cuts can happen. So your molding knife would be just maybe a little bit taller than and it would keep a little lip there. But what we should see now, if we get rid of the waste, bear with me. Let me click on. I'll just click on the big waste. That little waste in between. And let's flip her over. Get rid of this, that, and that. Two more. Double clicking on this waste for those that are new or anything like that to get rid of that. But if we look at the back side here, we have that miter, right? Nice and clean all the way to the edge. All right. So that way we come together. And we also have that little lip so that when it comes together, we have that box, that rabbet. We have that box can sit on that rabbet. So this much right here is going to be on the outside of our box, that nice little bead right there, right? So, Ronnie, do you think this is something that you would be able to utilize versus the method that you would try versus the method you're doing?
Yeah, 100%. I think in combination, well, for the CNC, I think I would purely use it for the profile cut and doing any type of scroll work, like you showed in that picture of that one. But I think at that point, I probably wouldn't do the flip operation just because of time. I think I would just take it over to my sled on the table saw and do my miters there.
Yeah. Yep. Doing them on the back while while that is something can be done, those chamfer cuts now, based off of my tools, my past steps and all that stuff, my times and everything, I mean, that's a 10-minute process, right, to cut those miters. How long it takes me to set it up on the table saw and cut them, I'm not sure, right?
Yeah. Plus you've got the time of doing the CA glued double-sided tape or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And then,
the setup,
and then if something does move, like all those little pieces in the middle, I don't know if they're going to deflect and knock off my crisp miter edge, or I don't know.
There's a lot of unknowns, so it would definitely be something that you would, there'd always be one that at least try one, right, kind of thing, right. See how it does and see how it performs, and then you'll know, like, no, it's better if I do it this way or that way or what have you. But
yeah,
we did at least,
very cool.
We did at least accomplish this. Now let's very quickly, as we get ready to say our goodbyes here in just a minute, let's just kind of simplify it down, right? So let's really look at this. What we have is we have a foot profile. Now, how I got this foot profile, ladies and gentlemen, how I got this shape to begin with, just to show you, I'm going to import a photo. And what I did is online, there was a photo of one of these feet that looked like this. It was kind of that front profile view, right? And on that photo, I did a trace, turning the bitmap fading off, and then black and white, sliding this all the way to 83. 84 is fine. And that gives me this outline here. And then hold down the shift key, or not shift key, my mouse, and I'm drawing a box around what I actually want to trace. I don't want those measurements. And when I'll turn the noise filter up to a 4 here, and when I preview this, it creates that profile. Now, so I found that picture online, right? So now coming over here, close this, over here, go into node editing. And first of all, that piece of trash goes away. Here on node editing, this point is gone, and I'm going to align to this point. So I'm going to select it first, and I'm going to take this one, select it last, and hit the letter Y, and that's going to straighten up my line right there, right? I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'm going to select this line here, or this node first, come over here, select this node last, hit the letter Y to line that up, and then I'm going to delete that point, right? That gives me that straight foot. Now I also need a straight line here, so I want to align to this. Hold down the shift key, come in here, and hit the letter X, right, to pull that and all. So literally just a little bit of cleanup, and that's how I achieved that profile, okay? So now you know how to achieve that profile. And also, like someone said, cool on the alignment of the nodes, right? So when you're in node editing, if I have a line that's crooked, right, and I need to straighten it out, you select the nodes you want to align to first. You hold your shift key down and select the nodes you want to align last. And if you need that line to move up and down, that's your Y-axis. If you need the line to move left and right, that's your X. So if you hit the letter Y, it'll pull those nodes into alignment based off of the first one you selected, right? So that's how that profile was gotten, right? So if you're wondering how'd you get the profile to begin with, Lainey, that's it, okay? Now, as far as that foot is concerned, like I said, if we're looking at, if we back up, and we're looking at this, it's a different profile, right? Think of it as a flat. Don't think of it as a 90 degree, but we're straight down. It's a simple curve, bottom little foot, you know, and then this curve on the front, right? So that's the profile for that little foot kind of thing. So creating your profile, you can have fun with it, and you could be any design, you know, try different things on that. So simplify that. So that's how we got the profiles. Now, as we said, as JR said, mirror your profile. So you have a left and a right side. The molding, how we got this molding, whether we use a molding toolpath or a model toolpath, the profile of the molding was based on the height of it. If I get out of node editing mode and pull this down, based on the top was the top of my foot, the bottom was the bottom of my foot, right? And then whatever shape this molding is kind of what the shape I want to take on of the foot. If I want it to be flat, you know, to where it was flat, right? Simple and flat, no big deal. Now, as far as if I wanted the scroll in there, like, you know, that scroll, literally draw a circle, you know, kind of like pick a start and an end point where you want the circle. Now, the line that kind of connects together there, it's going to be offset from that circle. So let me actually put that circle here. And let me put that circle here. Bear with me just for a minute. The line that we draw, if I'm freehand drawing, the line's not going to start in the center of this. It's going to start off to the side, and it's going to follow this curve, right? But it's going to end on this side. So that actually, this circle would be in here, not out there. Let me put that there. And once again, really quickly, now I'm just pulling this like this to create a rough draft, right? But I would actually use the same profile line that's here, right? Versus trying to draw another one. I would just go into node editing mode, temporarily cut the vector here, temporarily cut the vector here, And now I have a profile. All I have to do is create a little profile for the swirl. So I'm going to draw a small circle, however big it is. I'm going to go into node editing mode and I'm going to cut the circle in half. Stay with me, ladies and gentlemen. This won't take long. So we're going to cut and cut. Okay. We need to create that little profile because that profile is going to get swept along this line. It's a single rail sweep. So we're going to select that. That's going to be our drive rail. We're going to select this profile and we're going to apply that. So that's going to create this bead. Okay. Hang tight with me. This will make sense. Let's turn off the vectors. That'll confuse you, but it's going to create that bead. Okay. And then as far as our circles go, those are just rounded profiles, and don't go very high with them or anything. I'm just going to go 30-degree angle and create. And all of this stuff, my bead's a little too thick there, but now I have to kind of start, well, hold on a minute. I'm an idiot. Let's do that again on this. Go 60 degrees. Oh. Circle, circle. Oh, you son of a gun. 60 degrees. Apply. And I need a little bit of base height. 0.03125. All right, so now these parts need to merge together. And of course, I'm roughing this. I'm going to show you a picture that'll help you kind of understand what's happening. But these parts, these components, they need to merge together, but they need to add to this profile. So we have to do them on a separate level. So that part and the bead, these two parts have to merge with one another. Merge and merge, but they have to add to that bead. And my line on here, the cool thing about this is in 3D view, if I turn on the vectors and I select that vector, in the 3D view, can I not see my vector? There it is. If I move or change or size that vector or do anything with it, it's going to change or affect my model. And when I got to hit the letter, am I lying to y'all again? I don't know. But if I pull this in, all right, on the component, if I select the component, I should be able to hit E for edit, E, the letter E, and it edits that component. It opens it back up, the tool here. It's not going to let me change it or recalculate it. So dadgummit. Wanted to really quickly demonstrate this. But you see how I'm sticking out here? I need to bring that end in so it comes in, because what the ultimate thing is what we want. Let's actually look at a piece. Not that one, not that one. Do I not have one single foot with, give me a second. Let me give you a foot with a molding. Jeez Louise, I thought I had all the photos. That is a, stay with me, pedestal foot. Images. You find one with the molding, the scroll, not the molding. corner foot. There it is. Okay, sorry. Save image as, open in a new tab. Save image as JPEG. Open that image. We should be able to see it on the screen now. Zoom in. And literally, the part that we're coming, we want it to kind of come around. And when it comes around, there's going to be a space right on the edge, so that where it connects to the circle that we make, it creates that little void right there. So it kind of looks like the scroll. So our line that we have, that we sweep that little half, circle on, it needs to come around, and where it makes contact and everything, there needs to be a little bit of space in between the circle and that to create this little void right here. And we want to make sure that we are opposite. So on this lower part of the foot, our line is here. And when it comes around, it's coming around this side of the circle, the back side. So it's coming over the circle here, under the circle there. Okay. It's a very simple little shape and everything. Trying to draw it on the fly, I'm screwing up. But we go over the circle, and I didn't wrap around really quite far enough, but it goes over the circle and under the circle, depending on which way you're going, right? So we can go over on this side, under on this side, from the bottom top, just whichever way you do it. But it needs to, whatever way you do it, it has to match or flow with the actual foot. It can't be like off like I am here, right? It can't be off my line like I am there, right? I got to be on that line. And we definitely don't want to move the line, draw another one or whatever, but it needs to kind of wrap around. There needs to be a gap here from where it connects. And that's all it is to making the scroll. There's not a whole lot to it, because these are not decorative scrolls where they have highs and lows or anything. It's just two circles with that little wrap around. That's it. For all the pedestal feet, they're all pretty much the same. All right. We could do better with that, but that's that. So create your profile. It's a 2-rail sweep. If you're doing it as a model, it's a single rail molding sweep if you're doing it as a molding toolpath. And then on the back side, we have our lines for the miter cut. We did bring them into that inside of the cut. That was a good catch on everybody's part, that we need to bring it here. And it's a chamfer, not a straight plunge, chamfer, because we need that length and depth. And that's it. So all the stuff we went through seems complicated in some ways and all, but it's really not. It's a super simple process. And if you nail it, if you can get one set of feet done, it's the same rinse and repeat. The only thing that might change is your profile design or your molding shape or whatever, right? And somebody asked the question really quickly. Someone asked the question in the chat. They said, Kurt said, don't you have to cut crown molding a certain way for the miters to fit? Well, that's crown molding. So this isn't crown molding. Crown molding is it's a compound cut. So it's at a 45 degree or whatever angle, this way, but it's also a miter cut this way. So it's a compound miter. That's why you have a compound miter saw, right? Because the blade tilts this way and the bed tilts that way, right? To create that. That is for crown that you're asking about, Kurt. This isn't crown. This is just a simple miter cut. It's a foot. Okay. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. Ronnie, your files from last week, they'll email those over to you here shortly in just a little bit tonight. I'm sorry I didn't get them to you sooner, so you could have played with them this past weekend, but just getting them over to you tonight.
Cool, thank you.
And everybody else, if you want any of these vectors, like this foot or this profile or anything like that, let me know. I've got this saved here. I can share it out to the members, exclusive members. And to give you a heads up, since you kind of get the heads up before anyone else does, tomorrow night's class, if you want to attend, somebody had asked about making a shield. So we, in tomorrow night's class, we are going to be, if it opens here in just a second, open fast enough, faster. I'm on another screen behind me. Let's pull it over here. We are going to be making a lion shield that is going to be a 2-sided project.
That's cool.
We're going to be, so it's got the arm straps and everything on the back. It's going to be dished on the inside, on the back side. It's going to be modeled and dished or domed, if you will, kind of on the front side. We're going to be learning about slicing. We're going to be slicing a model in slices to, not that one. We're going to be slicing a model to be able to cut it out of 3/4 inch pieces and all that stuff. So tomorrow night's class, for a public class, we had a viewer ask about making a lion shield. This is what I came up with. So we're going to be doing that in class tomorrow. If you want to hang out with us tomorrow night as well, too, at 8 o'clock, that's going to be our project for tomorrow night, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Y'all all have a wonderful night, and I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Laney. Good night, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for the great questions. JR, Ron, as always, thanks for joining me online. Gold members, if any other gold members out there, you want to come online with me, I put the link in our little community. You can always pop in anytime you want.